morning, blessed souls. I hope everybody's doing well today. I'm going to talk about climate change for a change. I don't believe we're being told the truth about it. How about that? See, they blame it all on carbon. We know from history that has to be a lie, because we're here and we're carbon. Volcanoes go off, that's all carbon. They say that the whole world was a fireball at one time and it was all carbon. The planet knows how to deal with carbon. That's not a problem. Now, here's the things that are problems: geoengineering, HARP, chemtrails, all that kind of stuff, cloud seeding. That's climate change, man-made climate change. Trying to direct hurricanes and shit. We're not meant to do that. Just leave the weather alone. It's not supposed to be in our control. We should be able to predict it better than we do, but we shouldn't try to manipulate it if we do. Now, the other thing that kind of is us a little bit, but not really, because we don't get to make these decisions. When we pave a parking lot, we put drainage in, and that drainage doesn't seed the water into the land evenly throughout the parking lot. Doesn't seed it in anywhere. Takes it into drainage and ships it away out to sea or wherever. We don't let it get into the ground. So the earth here in your city and mine is starving for water. It's so dried out. It's like a fucking desert underneath these paved, horrible friggin' things that we make. The pavement gets cracks and stuff, and some does get through, but not very much, not enough. And then these big black paved areas with highways running between them of also black paved areas that we keep black all year round. We know for sure that creates warmer weather in cold climate, or anywhere. It makes warmer weather. It's going to make things hotter. And we see evidence in that by the turkey vultures moving north. And they keep migrating more and more north. And my good friend is a forest ranger, and he denied it. The rangers were in total denial. There's no turkey vultures in New Brunswick or Canada or whatever. And now they're common, they're everywhere. But I went to a seminar about it, and what it is the highways, these black highways, give them a nice little warm spot that they can hang out and get warm in the winter. And they're quite well insulated anyways, but they can get warmer in the winter, but it also gives them a permanent food supply, because we're always hitting things, right? So there's always roadkill, lots to eat, and there's warmer spots where they can hang out. And then we have these big cities that are warmer spots altogether, because we plow huge parking lots, and we plow and keep all that and keep the water out of it and remove all the snow, and it makes a huge, and removed all the trees so there's no shade. That makes a big difference. I live in the van, as y'all know, so when I park in this parking lot, if I was to park one spot over, I would cook. But if I park here where this tree is, it's perfectly fine. The difference is astronomical. 15 degrees some days, in the days where it counts. Anyway, so, and where that tree is, there's grass and that and land, open land for water to get in. Now, the mistake of that was they put a curb around the land and sealed any water from the parking lot getting leaching into that area. I think that's a mistake. Personally, make the I think we should take like every see in a big parking lot. Let's say that it's like 50, like the Home Depot or something. So you got like 50 spots this way, and you got 40 spots this way, right? So on so you got a row this way, and I would say go like 4 spots, put a tree. Go about 8 more spots, put a tree, right? Then you go to the next row, and you go in 8 spots, you put a tree, and you go 8 more spots and you put a tree. And then you go to the next row, and it could be 7s, whatever, 7s and 3s or whatever. And so you have all these shade trees kind of staggered throughout the parking lot. You cut the entire spot out, and then you just take those movable concrete parking spots. You know, those little concrete curbs that they lay, and they'll put them in dirt parking lots a lot of times and things, and it gives you a stopper curb, something to back up, kind of give you an eyeball. But it also works the same as these curbs, where it stops plow trucks, and it'd stop anybody being an idiot from hitting the tree, right? So same deal. You put these curbs in. If they get hit by a plow truck, they do move, but it lets you know, oh shit, I gotta stop. You know, as a plow driver, you get that, and then once you set your spot for the year, it's set, and then you just plow. And then on top of that, there's nothing we can do about the highways, but doing that in parking lots would drop the temperature in cities dramatically, especially the bigger the tree, the better, right? So if you're putting hardwoods, that's awesome. And then don't mow the spot underneath. You let the ecosystem of what would be there in the forest thrive in that little area underneath of the tree. If it takes a parking spot and a half or whatever, but I don't think it would, one parking spot, and now you've opened that parking spot, and you've got those abutments in there so that there's space between. So now when it rains, a lot of the water's still going to go to the drains, but on its way by, anywhere there's a tree, it's going to leach in there and really water that tree and spread into the ground. And it's going to spread into the ground every so often, spread out here and there, enough that that's not going to become a desert now, and the tree's under there. So the tree's not going to allow it to like become a swamp either. It's going to absorb most of that stuff. And then you got your grass layer and flowers and whatever grows on top, and so you'd end up with like bees and things like this. And so you'd have a whole ecosystem of what's supposed to be there. Plus, you'd have shade trees to park under all over the place. So all that shade would make a huge difference. I'm going to bring this to the Bible really quick with the shade. I wanted to say that out loud so that maybe I remember the shade. So you have your shade trees, and that's going to make a difference over the entire parking lot. Like huge differences, because you're going to have all these shady spots all over the place. dropping the temperature all over the place. So it'd be, and then like I say, if you get some trees that hold canopy, you're going to be looking at some big amounts of shade. So then, if we were to take on all these flat roofed buildings around the city, especially ones that are only 2 stories or whatever, or 3 stories, because they're not getting hit with the high winds and things as much as one that's 7, 8 stories. But anyhow, if we could take again a big concrete ring around the top of the building, like the perimeter, and I personally, I think you'd want it to be about 4 feet high and probably cubed, 4 feet across or deep, 4 to 6 maybe, and then at least 4 feet deep, and running the whole perimeter right around the building. And you could fill that with trees and plants, and you wouldn't want to go with oak up there on the top of your building or anything, but you could easily put cedars and different things, different like fairly big shrubs, cedar hedges, anything like that. Green it up. You'd be absorbing that sunlight that's coming down, and making the shade at the same time. And you'd make another ecosystem up there for the birds and stuff. And really, if you did the perimeter and then a line right through the center of your building, all the same, and there'd be a way you could easily recess that into, so it wouldn't actually be, if you were standing on the flat roof, it wouldn't be a 4 foot high wall all the way around. It might be a 2 foot high wall all the way around, and the other 2 feet of it is encompassed right into the roof system. And then you could have your drainage go into that, leach through that, and have other separate drainage in the bottom of that so you'd put like a rock layer. You put your drainage in here and there, just put a couple of drains, and then put a rock layer, however deep, few inch, 6 inches of good sized rocks, 3-inch stones, and then the water be able to move around underneath of there. You'd probably have to put a filter fabric on top of your rock layer just to really keep that movement forever, or for as long as possible. And then you fill them all up with your soil and mosses and things, and then your grasses and root, and then your mid-sized trees. You wouldn't, like I say, you wouldn't want big monster trees. Maybe in the middle, but I don't even think then, because too many problems with big trees. But you're already up X stories, so you don't need huge trees. Small trees are fine. Again, creating massive amounts more shade and cooling and absorbing more of that, utilizing more of that sun naturally, the way it's supposed to be used and the way we're supposed to live. We're not supposed to live in direct sunlight the way we do. My old theory on pre-flood Earth, in order for people to live that long and stuff, and their skin to not fade and everything, I went with the Hovind theory, where he thinks, and I forget who else, there's a couple of them that believe this, that there was a second firmament underneath of the firmament, right, between us and the sun, of water or a thin layer of ice that protected us from the sun's UV. But through learning, see, when we look at our mountain ranges, there's two types. Well, maybe three, but those are kind of more hills. See, where I'm from, we're told that we don't have mountains, we just have hills. And because they don't reach the right height to be mountains. And when you actually look at it, it's a big washout. And the hills that remain were just the more solid rock or more solid land masses that didn't get washed out as an ocean ran through there at one time. And I've explained that in other videos, where when you drive out of New Brunswick and into Quebec, just the first right through Edmundston, you can actually see the two banks coming together of the river, of the old lake, and they come together like that, and then they stop, and there's like a rock here, a huge hill here, a huge hill there, a huge hill here, a huge hill there, and this big opening between it, and everything's washed down to the levels. And then all of New Brunswick's like basically like that, with these big washouts and then massive river systems going out to the ocean. And then when you go into Quebec, you just watch these two massive horizons get further apart from each other, and then they just follow parallel for hours. And this one keeps right on going up north, and this one kind of splits off, but you can see another one behind it, and it runs off in another direction. And then you follow that one that was behind it, and you keep coming down into Ontario, and you get into the Great Lakes and stuff. So I figure that all of Quebec and Ontario, probably a lot of the prairies, was all one big massive fucking lake at one time. And the remnants of it are the Great Lakes and things as that got washed out. And the bank would be, I don't know where that other hill goes, down towards the States into Maine or whatever. But that was the other ridge that held this massive lake in. So then the pre-flood Earth. Oh, so these other mountain ranges, the other two types of mountain ranges, through my education learning, fuck with that, education learning. So through educating myself, there it is, I've learned that most of our mountains are actually petrified wood. Massive petrified trees. A lot of them, you can tell, are the stumps. And people have been excavating into them and proving that it's petrified wood. And they've been doing laser tests and stuff. And you do, different rock types, different wood types, and then the petrified wood types. And the laser reacts with all of them differently. And it proves that these mountains are petrified wood. And it explains a lot, because we see them, it makes no sense, these big flat areas, and then you got these little, it's like I was saying in Quebec, where you just got these little bump hills, right? And they're shaped like tree stumps. And then a lot of them, you got the tree stump thing, and then this big mountain range coming off of it that is the tree. Other ones, the tree's gone. Some of them you can tell perfectly flat. They were cut with something by someone or something. Anyhow. And then we have our regular stones, which all have, not all, but most, like all the Rocky Mountain Range, has an oceanic trench running parallel to it. So when that oceanic trench opened, it push that rock up, making the Rocky Mountains or whatever. And that's the same with all the oceanic trenches and all those mountain ranges. They all were created at the same time. And then the water was released from underground, which became our oceans as it fell down. And it would have, the ocean at the time of the flood, there would have been a moment of whatever weeks when the entire ocean would have been empty. All the oceanic trench and everything would have been empty, and all the water was pushed everywhere else on Earth, and then it had to come back down, and it left these massive lakes everywhere. And then these lakes, like Grand Canyon, would have drifted over the edge and made its trail to the ocean, to where the ocean is, where the big opening is. And then poof, if you've made dams before, you know that once they get that first initial trail, then it just rips it open right to the ground and just peels out of there. And that's very evident all over Earth. So shade. Those tree stumps would have been huge trees. You wouldn't need the layer of ice because we would have had a layer of canopy over the entire Earth. Huge trees, like what we call mountains, are the base of the trees. Imagine how big, like when we walk up to some of the trees in BC right now, you can drive a truck through them and they're huge. And we've actually tunneled through them rather than cutting them down in some places because that's how big they are in Canada. Those have been tiny little nothings compared to these trees that were all over the Earth before. The tree of life trees. So that canopy, the entire Earth would have just been a green cover, and the sun would have just went around over top of that green cover, and we would have lived in the shade underneath of the trees where it never rained. We wouldn't even have seen cloud hardly, or you'd see little pieces of blue here and there, but if you go walking around in the woods, you don't see that shit. And with trees that big, the trees we would have lived around and with wouldn't have been. No, who knows? Who knows how our trees would have grown back then, right? Like a regular oak or whatever. I'm sure in that shade it could have just done fine too, right? Depending on how thick the canopy was and what the trees were, like what those trees of life actually look like, and the fruits that were on them and all that stuff. Who knows? They could have provided everything that we needed. That's what it says in the Bible, that those trees provided everything we needed, and the fruit on them was the best. So now we can evidently see, again, something just all leading right back into and in line with the Bible, through stupid lie of climate change. And it's not a lie. It's misrepresented information where they're manipulating the climate with their technology and then blaming you and me for driving, for existing. They're doing it purposefully, maliciously, and then quietly telling you that they're doing it, but that they never openly admit that there's a correlation to the climate change that they talk about and bitch about, and the climate change technologies that they own and have and use. Instead, they blame it all on us and say that we are the problem. I don't know how you people fall for it over and over and over again, but whatever. Anyways, guys, I'm going to shut up. yeah, I'm going to shut up now and leave you be. Have a great day. God bless. It's Saturday morning for me. I hope it's Sunday or maybe Saturday afternoon for you guys if I get internet. Excuse me. God bless you. I hope you subscribe. One more week and things are going to get interesting. These videos will start changing. It's going to be a lot more just Hawaii adventures. And man, I hope Rumble gets their crap together and I can switch over to do my ranting and raving on Rumble. And you guys will just get all the pleasant adventure videos. But till then, you got to deal with me. God bless. Have a good day.